appreciate when you show up, and they expect you to show up. They expect you to earn it. So that's what we're going to do.
Welcome back to America Decides. Shakeups and polling struggles have defined Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' campaign for the last few months. Now CBS News is reporting that DeSantis is going all in on Iowa. CBS News political reporter Aaron Navarro joins us now. He is the author of that new report. So, not necessarily surprising, Aaron, that a political candidate would be focused on Iowa. What is different about the DeSantis strategy?
Well, it seems like they are really honing in on the grassroots operation and are planning to really lean on it to try and find success in Iowa. They say that this is the same method that Ted Cruz used to narrowly beat Trump by about 4 points in 2016. Rick Santorum also did, the quote-unquote full Grassley, a tour of every county in Iowa, which DeSantis is doing. But it's really building grassroots support, and it's what DeSantis' campaign, his allies think, will separate him from the rest of the field and Trump, in part because they have the funds to do so.
And what does their grassroots operation look like in Iowa right now? Because obviously early on, he had tons of money. The super PAC had tons of money. They hired all of these people.
Right.
Then they had to pull back. They had to let people go. What does their operation look like in Iowa compared to some of the other campaigns?
That's right. Well, the Super PAC has 5 offices spread out across Iowa, 20 staffers. It's definitely a reinvestment for them. And they cut, as you mentioned, they cut door knocking in Nevada and some Super Tuesday states in part to reinvest in the first 3 states. They have this commitment, the caucus card program that they say that they've gotten 12,000 Iowans to sign on to. And how they follow up with voters is not really known, but it's a sign to them that they were building a base of support for the caucus next January. But on the top line approach, it's that bus tour. It's DeSantis always being in the state, and the allies, the campaign, are ready to make that contrast with Trump, who goes infrequently. He goes for the Iowa State Fair, this upcoming Iowa versus Iowa State game, but not as much as DeSantis.
Right. He's been a little absent lately. I want to ask you about Nikki Haley because of all the candidates, she's almost been the most aggressive about talking about not only Joe Biden's age, but also his vice president. Let's take a listen to what she's had to say recently, then I want to ask you about it.
But what has Congress done for you lately? Nothing. Don't you think it's time we finally have term limits in this country? It's the same reason why I think we have to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75. We all know young 75-year-olds, and we know Joe Biden. The point I'm trying to make is these are people making decisions on our national security.
Is this a winning issue for her?
Well, it's interesting because no other candidate is really willing to talk about age in the same way Nikki Haley has. We were talking about DeSantis earlier. He has said, we'll let the voters decide when he's asked if he'd support the mental competency test. But we're seeing Haley, especially after the debate, start to make some traction in the polls, kind of knock on DeSantis' door. And in part because she has established herself as the candidate that talks about these things. And term limits especially have been popular across the aisle for in poll results for American citizens. So, and there's also that subtext of the conversation of a Biden-Trump rematch and these two very old politicians going against each other. So far, in the polling bump she's getting after the debate, it seems like it is working.
A lot of lawmakers in Washington are in their 80s themselves, so it's hard to see them imposing some kind of age requirement on the president and the vice president. It'll be interesting to see whether at some point Vice President Harris ends up taking on Nikki Haley after the things that Haley has been saying about her.
And we saw earlier in the show, the clip you showed of the interview with Margaret, that Kamala Harris, the vice president, isn't really quite ready to go after the candidates yet. No. Maybe some shots with Ron DeSantis and talking about education there, but it'll be something to watch if she does go after Haley.
Clearly, the message seems to have gone out on the Democratic side. Hold your fire for now.
For now.
There'll be time to go ahead and take them on. Aaron Navarro, a political reporter for CBS News, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.